There are places in history we are never meant to see. Doors that remain locked not because they hide nothing, but because they hide too much. For centuries, China has stood at the center of invention, empire, and secrecy. Gunpowder, paper, the compass, gifts to the world. But for every invention celebrated, there are others erased. Experiments buried beneath dynasties, forbidden knowledge hidden behind stone walls, and technology twisted into something darker than progress. Tonight, we open the files. Not the official history, not the polished monuments, but the fragments, archival whispers that survived fire, revolution, and silence. These are the stories pulled from the shadows of Chinese history. The dark inventions, the suppressed technologies, the facts erased not because they were false, but because they were too dangerous to be remembered. And like all Forbidden's files, what you are about to hear comes with a warning. Once you learn these things, you cannot unlearn them. Once you open the door cannot be closed. The story begins not in the modern age, but in antiquity. Centuries before the Western world dreamed of steam and electricity, the ancient Chinese were already experimenting with machines. Bamboo manuscripts describe automatons, wooden men who could walk, figures powered by water and gears. Legends speak of Yanshai, an artificer who presented the Zhou King with a life-sized automaton, able to sing and move its limbs. Was it myth? Or was it the beginning of technology so advanced it was buried as sorcery? Later dynasties outlawed such creations, fearing them unnatural. But fragments of diagrams remain etched into stone, suggesting gears, pulleys, and hollow chambers that mimicked lungs. Early robotics erased. But the most haunting inventions were never mechanical. They were chemical. The alchemists of the Han Dynasty sought immortality, mixing mercury, arsenic, and strange herbs. They promised emperors eternal life, yet left behind only bodies twisted with poisoning, minds shattered by hallucination. The Terracotta Army itself, some archaeologists whisper, was coated with mercury in ritual. Even now, the tomb of the first emperor remains sealed, untouched because ground-penetrating scans show rivers of liquid mercury beneath. A burial chamber, poisoned for eternity. The line between technology and horror has always been thin. The centuries passed, dynasties rose and fell, but the pursuit of forbidden science never ceased. During the Ming era, records describe something chilling, a series of sky lantern experiments. Not the peaceful glowing lanterns released during festivals, but massive silk structures powered by oil and chemical fires large enough to carry animals. Some experiments were said to lift men. One account, buried in military annals, tells of a trial near Nanjing where a prisoner was placed inside a reinforced basket beneath a great lantern. The fire roared, the structure lifted, and the prisoner screamed as the lantern drifted into the clouds. He never returned. Soldiers reported seeing a faint glow high above the city, then nothing. The entry ends coldly, subject lost to heaven. Device unstable. The dream of flight centuries before the Wright brothers, but achieved not with safety, only with sacrifice. The darkness deepened in the 20th century. When empires collapsed and modern war descended, China became both victim and experiment ground. The most infamous of these was Unit 731 **, a facility in Harbin during the Japanese occupation. Here, thousands were subjected to grotesque experiments, vivisections, frostbite tests, biological weapons. That horror belongs to another nation's cruelty. But what is less known is what happened after. When the war ended, much of Unit 731's research did not vanish. Documents were seized, yes, but whispers suggest some of the methods found their way into hidden Chinese programs in the decades that followed. Deep in the archives of Cold War Beijing, there are reports of biological weapon tests continued in secrecy. Farmers spoke of villages where livestock died overnight, where entire communities were sealed and erased from maps. Technology is a neutral thing. It becomes horror in the hands of power. Then came the nuclear age. The world remembers America and Russia, the mushroom clouds, the arms race. But China, too, pursued the atom. In the 1960s, deep in the deserts of Xinjiang, the first Chinese nuclear tests lit the sky. But what remains classified are the accounts of fallout zones where civilians were left unprotected, villagers who drank poisoned water, who watched children lose hair in clumps, whose bones weakened until they crumbled. One report from 1969, smuggled out decades later, describes a test where soldiers were marched directly into a freshly detonated zone to measure endurance. Survivors said they were told to stand facing the blast. The flash blinded them. The heat peeled skin. Many never left the desert alive. Official records celebrate China's nuclear success. The human costs remain buried in silence. But the most disturbing files are not about weapons of mass destruction. They are about the human mind. In the 1970s and 80s, during the height of Cold War paranoia, China, like the Soviet Union and the United States, plunged into research of the paranormal. Psychic phenomena, remote viewing, the possibility of training individuals to perceive information beyond space and time. The name given was **Extraordinary Human Body Potential *** Research. What sounds like science fiction was taken seriously at the highest levels. Children were tested for unusual abilities. Some claimed to read books with their fingertips to see objects inside sealed boxes. Scientists photographed subjects who allegedly bent spoons with thought alone. One declassified paper describes a child who was placed in a sealed room. Outside, another researcher drew symbols on paper. The child reproduced them exactly. When asked how he knew, he simply said, * "They showed me." *, skeptics dismissed it as fraud, but funding quietly increased. Rumors spread of entire schools dedicated to psychic training. Children turned into living instruments. And in the shadows of those programs, darker experiments, sensory deprivation, sleep manipulation, attempts to unlock hidden senses by pushing the brain beyond breaking. Witnesses later claimed that some subjects never returned to normal reality. They sat and blinking, whispering to people no one else could see. Then there are the machines. By the late 20th century, China had grown into a technological giant. Factories filled the world with electronics. But deep within state laboratories, other projects stirred. Projects that blurred the line between technology and surveillance, invention and control. In the 1990s, a program surfaced briefly in leaked documents, research into *** neuroelectric weapons ***. Devices that could allegedly disrupt brain waves at a distance, cause disorientation, nausea, even unconsciousness. Officially, they were prototypes. Unofficially, rumors tell of them being tested in remote prisons where inmates collapsed in unison when the machines were activated. Later, as digital technology advanced, a new layer of horror appeared. The integration of AI, facial recognition, and mass surveillance. Cameras that don't just record, but identify. Systems that don't just watch, but predict. A society where the line between technology and control dissolves entirely. For the first time in history, an entire population lives under the gaze of machines that learn their patterns, anticipate their movements, and judge their loyalty. It is not torture chambers or laboratories of flesh. It is something colder, quieter. A digital prison without walls. But the strangest, most forbidden whispers speak not of the past, but of hidden programs today. In the deserts of western China, satellite images reveal massive arrays of dishes and towers, too vast to be simple communication. Analysts speculate: weather manipulation, energy weapons, or something stranger, attempts to alter the ionosphere, to bend the sky itself. And in deep mountain laboratories, rumors persist of gene editing experiments, children designed not just for health, but for traits, strength, obedience, intelligence sharpened to unnatural edges. A new era of invention where the experiment is no longer animal or prisoner, but the very blueprint of humanity. The official story is progress. The unofficial story is something darker. Something that continues the same pattern that began centuries ago. Invention buried in secrecy, technology twisted into shadow.